Morning all, and welcome to this video about a beautiful tree, and a tree that we are in the lunar month of at this current time, according to Robert Graves's tree calendar, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But for now, we're going to talk about the ivy, the beautiful, she says, wearing quite an awesome ivy necklace with my friends at Tribe Mythica. Little plug there for my awesome friends. Yeah, I have an ivy leaf here. I am sat in my garden, and behind me there is ivy growing on the shed. On the shed? Is that a shed, Laura? I had enough tea. On the fence, and on the hawthorn tree. Shed, right, I'm getting my tea. I'm concerned at my head this morning. I'm sure that's better. So we have the ivy growing behind me here. And people don't often think that ivy is a tree because it doesn't have a big trunk. But ivy is a tree. And as I mentioned, we are in the lunar month of the ivy at the moment. Now, Robert Graves set the date as being, he set the date in his poems and writings to be the 30th of September to October the 27th. But realistically, it's kind of from new moon to the next cycle. But these dates have been set in stone to create a structure, which we can talk about later. Whether you agree with it or not, doesn't matter. We're talking about ivy today. And ivy, I'll just throw my leaf on the floor, there we go. Ivy, when we worked out that ivy is a tree, what do we know about ivy? Well, it grows on other things. It grows on other, as we see the fence behind me, and the beautiful hawthorn. You can see some of the lovely berries. It will be a tree that grows on others, and therefore sometimes can get a negative reputation for being bad for other trees. In fact, the ivy doesn't harm other trees. It doesn't take their food or their life force. The only way the ivy gets too much is because if it gets too full on, it can block out the light for a tree. And we can come on to that at a later point, that could represent the shadow aspect of the ivy as a tree energy, that we can be too full on with other people, we can be too dependent on them. However, we'll get back to that later, because the beauty of ivy is many-fold. It grows in places where other things don't. I think it's quite a romantic looking tree because there can be this really desolate graveyard or warehouse or part of a garden, and there grows a beautiful ivy. So it shows you that when things look totally barren and when you feel you can't get anywhere, or when you feel what's the hope? Ivy represents that anything is possible, and that, we can grow, we can learn, and we can be beautiful in all situations. The Gaelic name for Ogham is Gort or Gert. My pronunciation's on top form as ever, Gort or Gert. And I will show you in this video the alphabet letter for ivy, which represents the letter G. So apart from growing in places that others can't, it's evergreen. So when we get to the darkest points of winter, we can still see the beautiful ivy being shining and green. Ivy is a very feminine tree, and represents the goddess. And it represents the goddess in many forms. Because it grows in a spiral, a symbol of the goddess is the spiral. And it represents our own, what I love about this as well, is it represents our own spiralling journey, our own journey into the heart of ourselves. So like the labyrinth or the maze, it's about our own journey to discover the true heart of ourselves, to reach that centre and then to spiral out again. At this time of year, because we are today on the 1st of October, so we're just in the month of ivy, when we really feel just after the autumn equinox that the energy descends, spirals into the earth. So we follow the spiral of the ivy into the earth, into the winter months, into the darker part of the year. And as we get to the springtime and the spring equinox, we follow that spiral out from the depths into the outer world. But yes, at the moment we are deeply, romantically, spiritually with colds and all the things that get this time of year, spiraling our energy inwards down into the centre of ourselves on this spiritual journey, like Persephone going to the underworld. And the ivy is a key of that. I have actually got ivy tattooed on my left foot. I can't do some yoga to show you it, but you don't need to see it really. And that represents my footsteps, my path spiralling, my own spiritual journey spiralling. And when I walk, I focus on that and think on that. On my other foot, randomly I have roses, so walking with love with my other foot. But anyway, there we go. Tattoo video coming. I did promise one. So we've got this epic spiritual link with all trees, because our original spirituality was based on nature. But I find ivy is one of those ones people don't think of so much as having this great spiritual connection, but we're all very drawn to it. I think it's very, very beautiful. So you've got the spiralling energy. Here's a good fact. It was thought that to wear a circlet of ivy on your head not only looks pretty, but it was meant to prevent drunkenness. I'll give it a go. I can't guarantee it's going to work. This is because they were worn, circlets of ivy were worn in rituals, in ceremonies to worship and to honour Dionysus. And so we often see, when we see Dionysus, you'll see a circlet of ivy. There's a couple of myths that go along with this. That one myth is that one of the priestesses of Dionysus was revelling so hard in his honour that she died of exhaustion, and Dionysus felt really sad about this and turned her body into an ivy tree because it's evergreen and sacred to him. And there's other links in the story kind of weaves around a bit that this is one reason why ivy is meant to grow on the grave of people, men and women, who have died for love. So there's a nice little story there. This does link as well. There's other stories about this, a woman or a goddess or a priestess being transformed into the evergreen ivy. But yeah, prevent drunkenness. I'm up for experimentation. Let's say that. Let's see what happens. But on the opposite side of the foot, my language is really special this morning. On the opposite side of the coin, ivy does make wine. It's a bitter wine and it's a mildly toxic wine, but the Druids used it to bring on visions. So it's not already something that's used that much these days. In fact, ivy isn't really used in medicine much at all these days, I don't think at all, because it's slightly toxic. So I'm not suggesting, please don't go out there and make wine unless you really know what you're doing with ivy, because it is slightly toxic. And the toxic energy of it does brings on visions. So you've got the shamanic and the trance-like visions of ivy as well. Other things, there's lots of medical things that ivy was used for, but it's just not used anymore. It was toothache was one thing, used as astringent for toothache to bring on your period. Nice. I wrote some of the medical things down. I think because of its link to women, it was a lot of women's issues that it was used for. Yep, here we go. Oh, sunburn. Yeah, apparently it was from sunburn. You put a pulse it up and put it on your skin. It was meant to heal sunburn. Ulcers, antiseptic wash, loads of stuff that it was used for. It was to cure many an ailment medicinally, but never really used these days. The ivy is also here to also represents resurrection. Not only because it's evergreen, is it sort of an eternal feeling about it anyway, but because when it's cut down, it will grow back, and will grow back quite quickly. So this regrowth was shown to represent resurrection. We've mentioned some of the gods that. Well, we've mentioned Dionysus, and his Roman counterpart was Bacchus, also linked with wine, wine's good. But Dionysus is also an underworld god and a god of war and other things, kind of a fiery god. And Bacchus and wine and revelry in this kind of creative madness. Bacchus is also very similarly linked, and the Celtic warrior god Bran, and the oracular god Bran as well. So there's the oracle sense and the visionary sense of these gods as well. People say war, like it's just this god, it's just this, but there's lots of creative energies with these gods as well, and the visionary element. And that's interesting that Bran is the visionary oracular god, and that Ivy is associated with him as well. Ivy is also associated with Saturn, the Roman god Saturn, because the symbol of Saturn is a gold wren in a nest, or a wren plated with gold, and wrens often nest in ivy trees. So Saturn and Ivy are also linked. Loki is meant to be linked to Ivy as well. I'm not quite sure the link yet. I'm going to research that actually to find out why. I kind of read that and thought, I can see it's interesting, but I'd like to know why. So the other folklore around Ivy is the famous carol, The Holly and the Ivy, the pre-Christian version. I'm not going to sing it to you, don't worry, it's far too early in the year to start singing carols. But you would have the Holly boys and the Ivy girls. This was a folklore. This was the boys would be linked to Holly, sort of a masculine tree, and the girls would be linked to Ivy, the feminine tree. And with the Holly and the Ivy, it was really thought to address the balance of light and dark, the polarities, let's put my tea down, the opposites. So the light and dark part of the year, the masculine and the feminine, and the Holly and the Ivy entwined is a perfect example of the connection between masculine and feminine energy. So this is lovely. So when you sing this year the Holly and the Ivy at Christmas at Yule, and hopefully you know the pagan lyrics, you can think, the Holly and the Ivy when they're both full grown. So man and the woman energy when it's full grown. Of all the trees that are in the wood, the holly bears the crown. Interesting stuff. So Ivy, back to the lady, back to the feminine, and we'll put it this: it's meant to be a very helpful, friendly tree, and so having this is like a hand reached out to help, because Ivy offers friendship. I think it's nice to link it to the time of year we're in as well, because we're in the astrological time of Libra, and Libra is all about partnerships. It's about the balance and partnerships. So it does actually go really, really well with this time of year. Friendship and working together, not being a martyr and doing everything on your own all the time and saying, I'll do it, it's fine, don't worry about me. It's actually reaching out and working in community, working with others, sharing your skills, helping others, and allowing others to come into your life and help you as well. So friendship, healing, protection, steadfastness, tenacity, spiralling energy. These are some of the things we look at when we're looking at Ivy. But our connection and our relationships with others comes into real focus this time of year. And seeing the beauty of working with others and not striving always to do everything on our own, to offer that hand of friendship out to other people as well, is really, really a beautiful energy. And to be in our relationships, whatever they may be, our friendships, our partnerships, and to really, go into this darker part of the year together, learning what you're learning and finding out more about yourself. Before my voice goes, I can feel it going, which I'm not too happy about. I'm going to see if anything else, the support and interweaving, making connections with other people. It's all kind of the same. I'm sort of looking at my notes, which are terribly written, as usual. But again, I'm really looking at this as being a time of friendship, of relationship, of connectivity, of working with others, of looking outside ourselves to make beauty and strength happen. So this is a great time of year to go out there and drink tea. Any time of year is great to drink tea, but go out there and look at the ivy. It does actually, that's what I wanted to say, this is about the time of year where the ivy flowers and produces blackberries. They're yellow-green flowers in October, and they produce blackberries. I can't see any flowers over here at the moment. Oh, I do. No, they're coming. I can see flowers. Yeah, they're not just there yet. But then we are on the 1st of October, and it has been a really, really, really warm summer. But the buds for the flowers are just appearing. Yay! That's what I wanted to say. Oh gosh, I've got more things I want to say as well. I'll never shut up. But yeah, the flowers, yellow and green flowers, are there for this month, and they will turn to some blackberries. So I'll take some photos of these when they come out. More powers I've got wrote down. I love my notes, they're just kind of all over the shop. Fertility is because of the partnership aspect of things as well, and the growth and the strength of growth. Fidelity, being faithful, because that's cool, and also because it grows with one plant. Good luck, growth, healing, love, protection, resurrection. Yeah, I've written all this down. But what I thought as well was there was some folklore about if you sleep with ivy under your pillow, you'll dream of, apparently, isn't it always the case, like you put a tree under your pillow, not a tree under your pillow, put a leaf under your pillow, and you will dream of your true love. I think there's a bit of folklore about that as well. The elements that are linked, I mean, I find it interesting people put elements next to a tree, but air, earth and water were the elements that were associated with the ivy. I can see that though, that's cool. And I mean, this is some things that will probably need more research from my good self, to be honest, because I look up associations and I haven't really had time to go into all of the associations. So maybe you can have a little look if you want to of the different goddesses and gods that are linked to ivy. Ariane Rod, which has got a spinning wheel, the spiralling spinning wheel of Ariane Rod. Danu, the Earth Mother. Hell Holler, yeah, hell and a descent into the underworld. Yes, I see that. Persephone, of course, descending into the underworld. So the ivy would be very important for people working with Persephone, journeying deeper into the underworld at this time of year. I'm just like, oh, I'm going. Rhea, well, Rhea's connected with Saturn, so, and maybe I don't know much about Rhea, so that could be some research for me to do. And the gods Bacchus, yes, we mentioned Bacchus and Dionysus and their ecstatic rites, and that ivy was like. There was a few trees that were linked to Dionysus and his ecstatic rite, but only when a staff was covered in ivy was he here, was it happening. It wasn't going to happen without the ivy, so Dionysus and ivy are like that. Hermes, Loki, Omar, Pan, Saturn, and Osiris as well. Osiris is a very fertile nature god, and Pan's obviously the god of fertility in nature as well. So these are really interesting, and I'm going to look at more links, you know, and you may have other links that you associate different gods and goddesses with ivy. But ivy is a very beautiful, beautiful tree, full of love and nurturing and poetry. I think it's a very poetic tree as well. And reminds us of our spiralling journey inwards, deeper and deeper, to the centre of ourselves. So thank you so much for watching my video on ivy. I would love your thoughts and comments, and I hope you have a gorgeous October. There's much more videos coming. If you've enjoyed this video, I've got about 6 or 7 other tree videos on my channel, so do check them out. Thank you very much.